Hi guys, welcome back to another video, or your first video here, I don't know. Welcome if you're new here, welcome either way. This is going to be my January 2023 book haul, and technically unhaul as well, because I didn't unhaul a single book. Thank you, Reg. Because I didn't unhaul a single book this month, and I got a lot. A lot of these are books that I ordered over the Christmas period because they were new favourites of the year. So let's just get into this. So first of all, we have a book that I both bought and read this month, and that is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, the animated story. So I have the original novel that this guy wrote and illustrated, and over the Christmas period, sorry, I thought my dog was going to knock over my stack of books. And over the Christmas period, I watched the animated short that was made from that. And then this is a adaptation of the animated short. So just beautiful colour illustrations. And it's just so wonderful. It's not particularly groundbreaking, but it's just so wholesome and wonderful and a real joy to read. So I highly recommend this. I'm sure you've already heard of it, you've seen it in every supermarket, but I think this absolutely deserves the hype it gets. This isn't a wrap up, why am I doing this? Next book I hold is, well, not technically next book I hold, I don't know what order I got these in, but next book I'm showing you is I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This was a fantastic memoir I read last year and absolutely loved. It's from the perspective of one of the actresses from iCarly, and she is going through the abuse that she suffered both at the hands of her mother and from people in the industry, and it's really such an interesting read. I highly recommend. Next we have a very sweet comic that I really loved last year called Yagi the Bookshop Goat. So this is about a goat who loves books, loves reading, and wants to be working in a bookshop, but goats are not allowed to work in bookshops because of their tendency to eat paper, and how he manages to find a job. And it's just very, very sweet, very gay, and this was a lot of fun. Next we have a stunning cover, and that is What White People Can Do Now, From Allyship to Coalition. Yeah. And this was a really fantastic read I had near the end of last year. I think that I didn't necessarily agree with everything in here, but it gave such an interesting perspective that I think it has a lot to say with the race conversations that we're having at the moment. So I would highly recommend if this is a topic that you are interested in. Next we have I Know How This Ends by Imogen Maxwell Tweed. I just think that I love the way this author writes incredibly short stories, but with really interesting fantasy concepts, but that feel incredibly satisfying by the end. This is about a god, essentially, who lives sort of in a pause in time, and someone who manages to break through that barrier. And it's about the concept of, if you know how something is going to end, do you start it to begin with? And it's just absolutely wonderful, and I highly recommend. Also very gay. Next we have another one of my favourite books from last year, and that is The Henchman of Zenda by KJ Charles. This was just a fantastic book. I didn't know this before reading it, but this is a retelling of The Prisoner of Zenda. And in this universe, that book is canonically written. So from that book, we are following the henchman, and specifically one of them, and he makes reference to the book and how it was written to try and skew the truth, and he's sort of coming forward with the truth. I just thought this was so fantastic. I'm really coming to love this sort of subgenre of historical fiction that's often very queer and full of antics and fun, and I just absolutely loved this. The characters are so morally grey. You don't really know who to trust. The character doesn't really know who they can trust, and it's sort of arrogance in a fun way, and just I absolutely love this, and I'm definitely going to reread it soon because it was such a brilliant read. Next we have a play that I've actually already started, and that is The Inheritance by Matthew Lopez. This one I picked up for book club, although I probably would have picked it up anyway. It's one of these longer plays, so I'm assuming that when it was put on over multiple performances, or like over maybe multiple days. It almost feels like the setup of an improv game, and I don't I haven't completed it obviously, so I don't quite know the relevance of everything just yet, but the person running the kind of like improv game is E.M. Forster, the novelist. So I'm assuming that the events of the play are going to end up mirroring one of his novels, and sort of the commentary is that people read old novels because their experiences are very similar, even if people don't quite see those connections. That's what I'm assuming, having not finished it yet, but it's certainly very enjoyable so far. Next we have two books that I got from Gaze the Word, the London gay bookshop, and these were highly reduced because of them being secondhand and them being slightly damaged. So we have If This Gets Out by Sophie Gonzalez and Kale Diedrich, and someone's clearly like put it on a shelf and the covers got bent back. I'm not sure when I'm going to get to this, but it's gay YA and I'm excited to read it. And this one just had that tiny rip, so it's like practically new, perfectly readable, and this is Jay's Gay Agenda by Jason June. Again, gay YA that I love just trying out and seeing the representation and being able to recommend books like this. So I'm really excited to read it. Next we have the book that came in my Owl Crate box, and that is Grey Warren by Maggie Stiefvater, the third book in the Dreamer trilogy. I really can't wait to read this. I'm so interested to see how Ronan's story ends in here, and yeah, I'm so glad I managed to get the matching set too, although this is probably the least different from the original cover. Next we have another series that I'm sort of completing out, and that is I got two more of the books from the Wayward Children series. This is just, I hope that this series never ends. I reread this entire series over the course of January in order to read the most recent book that's come out, Lost in the Moment and Found, but these two at the time were the only ones out that I didn't already own, and every single one of these books in the series gets 5 stars, and I just absolutely love it. I will tell you more about it in my wrap-up. Next we have one that was again a favourite from, I think last year, and that is The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water. I always say snow for some reason. And this is by Zen Cho. So this one follows a group of bandits and a woman who ends up falling in with them after she gets caught up in a bar brawl, and it's just such a fantastic story. I didn't realise that I ordered this off Amazon and they sent me the ARC version, so I actually don't know whether or not this is any different from the final version, but it's just as beautiful and I loved it. Next we have one that I haven't read yet, and that is This Much Is True by Miriam Margot. I have never tried to say her name before and I've just realised that now. So this one I have been interested in reading, but I didn't want to pay full price for it. It wasn't a book that I was completely itching to, like, oh my god, I have to read that straight away. So when I saw it in the charity shop for £1 or something, I was like, yes, definitely going to pick that up. And I am excited to read this. I think that this woman is an incredible actress, and I love watching her on shows as well. Just she has a very funny way of speaking. I think I might try and find the audiobook of this and see if she narrates it herself, because I think that would be amazing. I think she's a very funny person. Now this one I hadn't heard of before, but it is How to Be Autistic by Charlotte Amelia Poe. I don't specifically research about autism rep very often, but I do tend to pick out the odd thing when I see it. I saw this in a charity shop for a pound or two, and it is from the back, memoir about this author's experiences, and I think that what she's doing is really good. with how we really only tend to see one type of autism portrayed in the media, and people who haven't encountered autistic people before tend to see a very specific type of person be autistic. And so, for example, when I say to people that I'm autistic, they're like, no, you're not, or well, how? Because you don't act like this, or you can do this and that. And I just think that we need more diverse representation. So I am very excited to read this. And next we have a book that I have already read, and that is Galatea, a short story by Madeline Miller. This is just such a tiny little book. It's very, very sweet. I really, really loved this. I gave it 5 stars when I read it. Madeline Miller is the author of Achilles, The Song of Achilles and Circe, and this is a retelling of another Greek myth about a statue brought to life and the bodily autonomy of women, and it was such a moving and fantastic read, and just I love this cover. It's gorgeous. I think we're probably going to end on my favourite cover, but 3 more before that. I need to get my book buying under control. Anyway, next we have Serpentine by Philip Pullman. This is a short story in the Northern Lights series, and I think that one of the short stories might reference Book of Dust. I'm not going to look into much of what this is about without without reading those books, in case this does spoil any of the events in those. It is a series that I really need to read. I've not let myself watch the show before I dive into the books, so I really can't wait for that, but this will be there when I finish those. Another book we have is The Boy in the Dress by David Walliams, and I just love that Quentin Blake has continued illustrating children's books after Roald Dahl. So not many of David Walliams' books has interested me all that much, but this one I've been told has some really, really great gender and gender expression conversations, so I'm very interested to see how this goes. And second to last, we have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I saw this one in a charity shop, and I really think I'm going to love this. I don't often pick up sci-fi, but this just sounds like the found family, wonderful sci-fi that I could really, really love. And yeah, I need to prioritise this because I've heard such good things. And lastly, my favourite cover that I got is a copy of Aesop's Fables. I know that it's still got the plastic on it, but I have already read this book. So this is another one of the Barnes & Noble exclusive leather-bound covers of classics that I collect. I got a Waterstones gift card for Christmas and I decided to spend it on this, and it is just stunning, absolutely beautiful. I read Aesop's Fables when I was a lot younger, so this book has stories such as The Tortoise and the Hare, and I don't know quite what they're called, but the one about how the rhino got his skin, and just fables about animals, and it's just a fantastic book, and I'm so happy to have this beautiful, beautiful cover to put on my shelves. And there you have it. Those are the 20 books that I got this month. I really need to calm down if I want to stick to my goal of getting rid of more books than I buy. But yeah, maybe I'll be better next month. I shall see you in my January wrap up. Bye.